Hi, it's Mary Kay DeJesus again with another story to tell you. Um, I want to tell you I worked at IBM. Then this is years ago, and I had a meeting that I had to go to in Kansas City, but I only needed to stay overnight, so I wore my suit so I wouldn't have to pack it, and brought all my essentials that I needed. So I just had a small carry-on. So I flew in, and it was quite late at night because I left after work already. And I got into the reservation desk and asked her, about my reservation. And she said, "I am so sorry. We have nothing left." And I said, "Well, I do have a reservation. I need to get there tomorrow. Is there anything you can do for me?" And so she went looking, and she did come back with the key, and she said, "It's not the auto that you wanted. However, it is a truck. It's full of gas. It's ready to go. And it's all I have left." So I thanked her, took the key, and I went out to the truck. It wasn't one of those huge trucks. I mean, it wasn't a panel truck or anything. It was just a little pickup. So I got in, put my stuff into the seat, and I started driving. I just started driving towards Coffeyville. I was going to one of the branch offices, and I was going to talk to them about parts and an audit coming up. So I was in the truck, and it was raining. It was pouring so hard that the wipers were on fast, and they were constant. And I was avoiding puddles, and puddles were everywhere. And I would hit one, and I would jump up into from the seat, and so I was going a little bit slower than I normally would. But as I was going, I was probably 10 miles away from the airport and still a little distance from Coffeyville. And there was something on the side of the road, and I looked, and it was a goat. It wasn't a baby goat, and it wasn't a full-size adult goat, but it was wet, and it was behind, and it looked at me with these big sad eyes. And I thought, nope, I am not stopping. I'm just going to go. There's nothing I can do about it. So I kept going, and I'm 2 miles down the road, and I kept thinking about that poor little goat. And I did a turnaround, came back, and that goat, I got out of the truck, and now remember, it's pouring rain. I got out of the truck, opened the tailgate, and that goat just hopped up there, laid down in the corner, was content. So now I'm thinking, what am I going to do with the goat in my car? So I drove into town, and I stopped at the first diner. Left the goat in the truck. I'm not going to touch it. And I walked into the diner, and I walked up to the waitress behind the counter. And I said, "Hi, I was driving, and I passed this goat, and he's in my truck. He's wet, and he's miserable. I don't know what to do." And she kind of giggled, and she said, "Just a minute, wait right here." So she calls a man called Everett up to the front, and she said, Everett, there's somebody up here that needs to see you." So this man, I swear, he was 6'7", if at anything. And then he had this big cowboy hat on top of his head, so which made him even taller. So he looked like the 7-foot man coming towards me. Now, I am not a small person. I am very tall. But standing next to him, I felt tiny. I mean, really tiny. And he comes up there, just strolling. "Well, little lady, what is this?" And I told him the story. I said, I drove by, and I drove past him, and then I went back. He said, "So you're a goat hustler?" I am not a goat hustler. I was trying to help the poor thing. I didn't know what to do. And he said, "Well, stay right here." And he called his boss. Well, his boss happened to be the sheriff. And I heard him on the phone, and he's going, "We have a goat hustler at Maggie's." And I am not a goat hustler. And everybody's looking at me in this whole place, and they're just staring at me. And I felt so bad. And he said, "Well, you're going to have to wait here for the sheriff, you little lady." And I thought, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? I mean, I know it's not a good thing to take animals, but I really was trying to help. So the sheriff comes in. He goes, "I looked at the goat in the back of your truck, and that is Myrtle's." And I said, "Well, he wasn't at Myrtle's. He was on the side of the road, and he was miserable. So I opened my tailgate and let him in, and that's all I did. And he said, so you're admitting you're a goat hustler? And I said, no, I didn't steal him. I am not a goat hustler. He's in the back of my truck. What do I do? And they're all laughing. And so they talked to Everett, and the sheriff are talking to each other, and they're deciding what they should do. Everybody's staring still, and I was so embarrassed, and I'm soaking wet. I have mud all over my suit, which must have come from the side of my truck, because I don't know where I would have gotten mud. And he finally walked up to me, and Everett does this thing with his hat, and he says, well, little goat hustler, we're going to let you go. We're going to take the goat back to Myrtle's. And I said, I'm not a goat hustler, and I'd really appreciate that if you did. And then they all started laughing, and I even felt worse. And he said, he always does this. He looks for someone to bring him in, so that, because he knows here at Maggie's that he can get straw and milk and whatever he needs. I said, so I'm an Uber. I'm not a goat hustler. I'm an Uber. And they all agreed and said yes. So Everett told me where I was to go for my hotel, and so I got in my truck and left, and I walked in, and all of a sudden I hear the siren, that's not a siren, the alarm going off, and I woke up, and I looked around, and I said, I don't even remember falling back to sleep. I really don't. And I looked, and my suit is nice and dry, hanging where it should have been hanging, and there's no mud. I didn't walk in with muddy shoes. My shoes were fine. I looked outside the window, and the truck is there. No goat. So I must have dreamed the whole thing. But the good thing is I had a story now that I can tell at my meeting in a few minutes. So I got ready and I left. And I did tell that story to the people in the branch office. We all had a good laugh about it. Next time I'm charging for my Uber drive, if that ever happens to me. But if you liked my story, hit a like. If you have any questions or there's something you want to know about, ask in the comments. I would be glad to talk with you about anything. And I will see you next time. Love you. Bye.